The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
Well, Catawba is a typical Catawba team, and especially since Curtis has been there, it's they're depending a whole lot on their defense to win. They've got 8 of them back, I think, and they're very, very well coached, and got 4 great linebackers, and they depend on them a whole lot. And offensively, they've been. I think the key is to not turn the ball over and be sound, and they've got some people that can play. Quarterbacks, of course, a several-year starter that can run and throw again. Back to that deal again. And that seems to be something that's a kind of a thorn in our side that we don't respond very well to, because we haven't been as athletically gifted as we need to be the first 2 ball games. I don't think we've been as gifted as our athletic ability says we are. But anyway, Catawba's very sound in the kicking game. Got a great punter, great kicker. They're going to not beat themselves. They're not going to give you anything. You're going to have to earn what you get. They beat us 14-7 last year because we didn't move the ball very well, and they got a couple of big drives on us, and so we've got to line up and play.
You talked about the quarterback Sheehan and that he can run and throw. He's getting good pass protection too. Hasn't been sacked yet this year against 2 pretty heady defenses in Winston-Salem and West Georgia. What sticks out to you about their offensive front?
Well, they're mobile. They're a little bit different than they've been in the past, and the fact that they're a whole lot more. They're not hardly as beefy, but they're very mobile. And plus, he's mobile. It's hard to get him hemmed up. He'll find a place to crease to squirt through and go make something happen. And so. And he's a wily veteran. He's been doing it for a long time. Is he a senior? He's been there 7 years. Is he a senior?
That's what I said yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he and his brother have at least 5 degrees from Catawba by now. But they're really, he's a good player. They're sound. They don't make mistakes. And like I say, they're not going to beat themselves. They're probably not going to give you turnovers to help you. Of course, we've only had 1 turnover all year anyway. We don't like turnovers, so.
What do you call it? We haven't had a turnover yet.
No, we haven't taken any. We don't have any takeaways, which is the turnover balance, and we're not getting takeaways like we need to, and thank goodness we hadn't turned it over, not because we've laid it on the ground for them a couple of times and they just didn't recover it. But we've been very fortunate that we have got a +1 on the turnover margin right now. So as long as we can stay in the plus margin, that's great.
I mean, you've known Curtis Walker for decades, from him being a player to the defensive coordinator to now the head coach. What typifies him as a player and now as a coach?
Well, great competitor. He sure enjoys beating Carson-Newman, as he showed last year at the end of the ball game. He celebrated big time, which I understand. And he's always been well prepared as a player and as a coach. He's got his team prepared. He was a motivator. When Curtis shows up, he's going to play hard if he's playing, and he's going to have his guys play hard if he's coaching. So, good football coach.
Defensively, you talked about the linebackers, but what do Kyle Kitchens, Trey Evans, Michael Peppers, Jamal Lackey bring to the table for them?
A whole lot of toughness and speed and ability to make plays. They just make plays, and that's what you want your linebackers to do.
It's rare this early in the season where an opponent might be playing for their playoff life. How do you express that desperation to your guys, knowing that Catawba is going to be really hungry to get their first win?
Well, I'm sure they're approaching it as the first game of the season, since it's the first conference game, and I know they place a lot of emphasis on winning the conference, which they did last year, and favored to win this year, and so we'll see a whole different motivated football team than what they've been the first 2 weeks.
How well do you think your defensive line played last week controlling the line of scrimmage?
Not very good. and got to get a lot better. And we were very fortunate. We traveled with 4 kids at defensive tackle, and one of them got hurt, and one of them was playing hurt to start with. And so, they played 70 snaps in that heat, and that's a miracle in itself. And really, really appreciate their toughness in that ball game.
When you look at a guy like Dan Gallman, AFCA Good Works nominee, what does he bring to the culture here at Carson-Newman?
Well, Dan's a good leader. Dan is a guy that's been there, done that, and has earned respect. And not only with the way he plays or has played, he's not playing really well right now, but he's going to get better every week, and he works like crazy. He's probably a month in advance of what he's supposed to be playing just because of how hard he's willing to work in the off season. And so when Dan's in the huddle, we're a better football team, and so we are glad to have him in the huddle.
You mentioned last year your offense stalled out a lot, couldn't really move the football. What kind of adjustments do you make this year against Catawba?
Well, we grunt louder and try to get a couple of first downs that we didn't convert last year that were critical for us. And we did not play. We were running the option, and we weren't reading the option. When you run the option, you got to read the option, and so we just didn't have a good ball game all the way around. Offensively, defensively, we played well enough to win, but offensively, we didn't play well. We laid an egg last year.
Coach,
if we'd had a linebacker last year that made some tackles, we'd been a whole lot better off.
Thank goodness Eric Kane had graduated.
Eric Kane was our problem last year, probably number 1.
I'm not transcribing. Carson Wise didn't have one of his better games yesterday. Missed a PAT, missed a field goal, had a couple of kicks out of bounds. What have you challenged him this week to try to respond from that game on Saturday?
Well, to make sure that it don't become mental. The worst thing in the world is when you do stinking thinking and you put self-restrictions on yourself in ways that you shouldn't. And so that's been number 1 that we've talked about. Number 2, we're going to change the work schedule a little bit with him this week and see if we can't get some of those kinks out of there. And of course, he's kicking the ball so well, hard. He's kicking it hard that I think sometimes if you're kicking it a long ways and your degree of offness is that much, then that means it's going to go quite a bit. The farther it goes, and so I think he may have a little bit of an alignment problem at times and things that we got to get. I think he's we got to get him a little bit more to the right. He's to the left right now, and we got those guys to the left, and come on. And so he'll work at it. He'll get that straightened out.
You look at the wide receivers on paper, and they put up pretty good numbers these past 2 weeks, but there have been a few long balls that just dropped through hands.
Had 4 drops.
Drop passes in general. How do you get that group to go from a pretty good outing to a next level outing?
Well, I think it's a great group of kids. They're fun to coach. There's not any of them that don't want to do it and not want to do it right. And but there was times this last ball game that we didn't block very well, and then we dropped 4 passes. We ran the wrong pattern 2 or 3 times, most of it by a freshman, but still, we got some new people in there, and so it's part of the process of them growing up and getting better, and they will, just like I hope our whole football team will.
How did that long of a trip, a 6-hour haul over to Raleigh, what does that do for team bonding and fellowship?
Well, it's got a lot of possibilities, because anytime that you have to do something besides a regular routine, it has a lot of possibilities of bonding and getting better acquainted with each other and getting to know each other better. And we had some interesting things on this trip that I hope won't happen again. We had one bus that had computer service and TV service, and we had the other one that had none of it. And that's terrible on a 5.5, 6 hour trip.
You look at the spiritual growth, and something big happened prior to the SAU game.
Yeah.
The baptism at Mossy Creek. I can't remember exactly how many, but what's that mean to you that several individuals made decisions of faith mid-season?
Well, it's special, and that's from some of their decisions that they made during the summer, during camp, and some of the things that they have been, that the Lord has been convicting them with and that they've responded to, which, is a secret to all of us. He's constantly convicting. The key is whether we are spiritually alive enough to know it. And so, it was a great experience to have a bunch of kids baptized in. It used to be Mossy Creek. It's Allen Morgan Creek now. And but to get to experience that was the best night's sleep I had in the last 3 or 4 weeks, just because of the satisfaction personally of seeing those guys respond that way. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch.
So what you're telling me is that it gets foggy at Allen Morgan now.
Yeah, at the Allen Morgan. Yeah, should we call it the Allen Morgan or the Morgan? I mean, what should we call it?
The Morgan.
The Morgan.
It has a better ring to it.
The Morgan. Yes, we baptize kids in the Morgan. So I'm telling you, it's a great place down there. It really is. It is a special place, and to be able to do something special in a special place like we did there last Thursday was super.